Hello everybody here from Kigali Live, and we have a very interesting session. On our hands, I have two remarkable speakers with me, and we are going to discuss the future and the current events in the Indo-Pacific. With me, I have Velina Tchakarova, who is founder of an Institute for a Conscious Experience from Austria, and we have Joseph Chang, who is Associate Research Fellow, Institute for National Defense and Security Research. Velina, let me start with you. I mean, of course, Indo-Pacific is a region of the 21st century. You have a lot of commotion, a lot of new initiatives, a lot of cooperation, but also a lot of rivalry and competition. How do you see all this competition, all this rivalry happening? I mean, what do you see as the one thing that you would describe as a turning point for Indo-Pacific? Why do you think that all this commotion is happening right now?
Thank you very much for this package of questions that we probably will need many hours to unpack. I will do my best. I argue that the Indo-Pacific region is the epicenter of global system competition between the United States and China. It has been already manifested through, for instance, certain decisions as the positioning of Russia. In my view, Russia has sided with China before making a move on Ukraine, before taking the decision on starting off all-in a war, a full-scale war against Ukraine. And it has a lot to do with the Indo-Pacific. And this manifestation of a systemic conflict between the United States and China means that all relevant regional players in the Indo-Pacific are going to be confronted with some very tough decisions. There will be centrifugal forces in terms of geopolitics and economics. In terms of geopolitics, a lot of security and defense alliances, partnerships, pacts will be formed. We've seen some of them already under the guidance, under the umbrella of the United States, but there will be also regional formations. So that means the very fact that, for instance, South Korea and Japan got along, overwhelmed their animosities, is a strong signal in this direction. The very fact that neighbors of China in South China Sea, who are already witnessing this growing presence of China, are practically already offering, their soil for U.S. bases. This is the case of Philippines, but also the fact, and my colleague will be talking specifically on Taiwan, that's why I don't want to touch upon this. This epicenter means that there will be regional formations on both sides, China-led, US-led. It also means that China and Russia will be creating a counter-narrative versus US-led initiatives such as AUKUS, the Security and Defense Pact between Australia, UK, and United States, the quadrilateral partnership, which is more about geoeconomics rather than security, the NATO initiatives that are now emerging, by the way, with the liaison office that will be opened in Japan, and I argue that the four countries. I suppose I don't want to take all the points of my colleagues, so just drawing you a map of what is really happening, and you clearly see that there is one relevant actor missing, and these are the Europeans. So Europe needs to get its act together. There are already Indo-Pacific strategies in the most relevant European powers, and also, of course, European Union as an institutional actor. But I argue that Europe will be also faced with some tough choices in the future, and I can elaborate later about on the diverging positions when it comes to the Indo-Pacific.
Okay, thank you, Velina. We will return to this European side of the story and the relations with the Indo-Pacific. Joseph, you coming from the region,
yes.
How do you see all the happenings? Is this, and this is something that I think Velina pointed out quite clearly, are all these new initiatives, this open Indo-Pacific, is this basically a story how to contain China?
Okay. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the great the question and appreciate your interventions on the regional dynamics in the Indo-Pacific. Free and open Indo-Pacific basically is an evolving concept that more and more countries embracing and adopting in their foreign policies and national security strategies. So many countries in the region and also some European countries, including the UK, Germany, Netherlands, and even France, they have also their own Indo-Pacific strategy or policy, like the UK's Indo-Pacific tilt. And you can see that because the Indo-Pacific region is a center of gravity in the international society, and more countries pay a lot of attention to the regional dynamics under the context of the strategic competition between two players, the United States and China. So I would like to commend that some countries, especially Australia, India, and Japan, they are the pathfinders of the free and open Indo-Pacific concept. And under the framework of the Indo-Pacific, there's no formalized or institutionalized architecture or mechanism. But we have seen a lot of initiatives proposed by many countries in the region. For example, the Prime Minister Modi of India proposed the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative to ensure stability and security maritime domain. And the other example is the United States proposed Indo-Pacific Economic Framework to ensure economic resilience and inclusive, sustainable growth in the region. So these kind of initiatives and the proposals help to shape the regional order in the Indo-Pacific, at the same time to maintain the rule-based regional order and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Velina, I mean, this is a tough question, but where is this competition leading us? I mean, what's the end of result? You know, this competition between the U.S. and the China, U.S. and all the other countries of Indo-Pacific. Where is this competition leading us? What is the end goal of this? Is it containment of China? Is it a new world order? Is it, where are we coming to?
Now, as a geopolitical analyst, I have my own assessments and analysis on the matter. The international expert community is very much split when it comes to the final stage of these developments, when it comes to the scenarios. Is it World War III going to happen? Is it Cold War 2.0 scenario? Are we going to witness military attack by China on Taiwan in the next few years? So in this short to middle term, are we actually going to see more militarization and other regional conflicts happening in the Indo-Pacific region? So a lot of question marks. So
is there a positive scenario, because you only mentioned the bad scenarios, Is there a positive scenario for the future?
Of course, our task is always to point to the ruin scenarios. That does not necessarily mean that we actually are going to end up there. But it's very important for the decision makers, also for businesses, for investors, so for the business world and for the political world and for societies to actually have an idea and a clear picture of what is going on. And right now, it is all of it happening simultaneously. So it's a lot of competition. It is also a lot of containment strategy being applied there. But it is also a lot of what I say ad hoc fluid constellations, where regional actors have to get along on certain issues. So there are issues that are relevant for all of them. So they also have a lot of political dialogue. They have a lot of different platforms. Now think about India as an example. India, on the one hand, is part of the quadrilateral format, is part of US-led initiatives, is going to be probably part of, in the future, of some activities of the AUKUS, training missions or military exercises whatsoever. But at the same time, India is also part of BRICS, is part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and sitting at the table with China, Russia, Pakistan, and so on. So we have a lot of these ad hoc fluid constellations. What I personally see, or rather don't see, and I don't share the opinion of the expert community about a military attack on Taiwan in the short term. What I fear is actually China's long-term strategy towards Taiwan, and that is long-term oriented penetration of society, of industry, of political actors to subjugate Taiwan from within. This is much more dangerous than actually a direct military attack. I think China learned a lesson from Russia's war, failing and failed Russia's war against Ukraine. But what we have to be mindful of is the Cold War 2.0 scenario, a scenario in which after this interministic period of the international relations, we all will be faced with a new reality, and the regional actors will have to take either or choices. They will have to side either with United States or China.
Thank you very much, Velina. Joseph, basically, she introduced the next topic for you, lessons learned from the Russian aggression on Ukraine in the context of Indo-Pacific and, of course, Taiwan and China.
Thank you for the great question. Not just because I'm from Taiwan, because more and more international attention and the support come to Taiwan, given the critical juncture of the increasing tension in the Taiwan Strait, and also the changing geopolitical dynamics in the region. We are not naive, because we understand the Ukraine war certainly is a worthwhile lesson for Taiwan in its defending itself. There's no evidence that Russia's faltering invasion of Ukraine has changed Beijing's strategic calculation in terms of the time frame, timeline, and the methodology for any potential attack on Taiwan. So we watch it very closely. And for this, the 3 points I would like to point out. The first one is that Taiwan is committed to enhancing its self-defense capabilities. So Taiwan has continuously increased its defense budget to bolster its warfare preparedness and also military readiness. So in the facing the threat from the other side of the Taiwan Strait, Taiwan has been preparing and want to get more support from international community. And so Taiwan recently also increased its mandatory conscription from 4 months to 1 year for its qualified male citizens. At the same time, the government of Taiwan also reinvigorated its reserve system in terms of the training, mobilizing its whole population. And secondly, Taiwan is dedicated to strengthen its asymmetric warfare capabilities. Given the Ukraine war, which highlighted the value of long-term or long-range defensive weapons, so Taiwan will continue to develop and procure and low-cost, more decentralized, and higher mobilized and highly survivable precision-guided defensive weapons systems. And we'll continue to purchase, like, for example, Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, and also HIMARS, defensive missile systems. And the third one, Taiwan would like to will continue to be determined to demonstrate democratic resilience to the world. Yeah, the government of Taiwan had been facing the cyber attacks, economic coercion, military intimidation from China since day one. So more recently, China launched the gray zone activities and also hybrid warfare and the disinformation campaign, yeah, to undermine trust in Taiwan's governance and democracy. So the government of Taiwan will continue to safeguard sovereignty, freedom, democracy, as well as its democratic and freer way of life.
Joseph, thank you. Velina, for the end, 15 seconds. Where is European Union in all that? As you said, there is no coherent policy probably of European Union in the Indo-Pacific. We have countries like UK, which is not in the European Union anymore, but
Yes.
Germany, France, and so on, who have their own positions and ideas about cooperation with Indo-Pacific. What about European Union as a whole?
We have a coherent policy when it comes to the trade, obviously, and there is a lot of interest in crafting some FTAs, for instance, with India or with ASEAN countries. We have already actually 2 FTAs with Singapore and Vietnam, so this is going to go on. But what I argue is that Europe needs to become a security actor in the region. It needs to be perceived as such, it needs to have a presence, it needs to contribute not only with capacities building programs or whatsoever, but also with capabilities. And the way how it can start is actually from from the eastern coasts of Africa, where we have already an operation within the Common Security and Defense Policy, and to reach out to India and with India's help actually to start projecting also towards the ASEAN. That's the way forward, being on the ground. So what I fear is that we may end up again in discussions within NATO. We are going to have a summit, a NATO summit this summer, and there are already signals, for instance, from France, when it comes to the future cooperation between NATO and Asian countries, Indo-Pacific countries, and here we should actually be careful to not get into a new polarization between NATO members, and this means, of course, between the European NATO members. This is something that we should avoid by all means.
Thank you very much to everybody. I think it was an interesting discussion. We saw there is a lot of competition. We saw there is a lot of rivalry in the Indo-Pacific. But on the other hand, as I think also Velina mentioned, there is also cooperation on some themes which are important for all the countries, meaning climate change, meaning sustainability, economic cooperation, and so on and so on. So, a lot is going on, and we will see what the future is going to bring to Indo-Pacific. Thank you very much to everybody, especially to my 2 speakers, and we greet you all. Thank you very much.